bought this $2 bed sheet from the thrift store, and I've washed it, and I bought it so that I can try making a new pattern, and if it comes out good, great. If it comes out bad, well, it was only $2, so let's see how I do and what I can make with this. So the first thing we're gonna do is print our pattern and adjust the neckline, and I figured that you would just connect the bottom point to the top, but then I got confused and I made more lines than necessary, so I decided to cut it out anyways, and I realized I could make it symmetrical by placing one on top of the other and making sure that they're connected at the top, and then tracing the same shape and cutting it out. They should be the same, right? So let me go in and trace this. And there are a couple stains, so yeah, that looks like maybe a tomato sauce stain or something. I can't control what people eat in their beds, so I'm going to do my best to cut these pieces out and make sure that none of them have stains on them. So, yeah. And I have the fabric folded because I'm using the fabric for both the lining and the main fabric, so you will need double of each pattern, and it just makes it a little easier to cut out this way. But for the side front and the side back, you actually need 4 of each piece because it is one on each side for the lining and the main fabric. Pieces have these little red marks, and this is how we're going to make sure that our pieces are aligning. And so we don't have to mark our fabric in red. We can just cut little slits along that. And make sure you don't go past the seam allowance. So I only cut about a 1/4 inch in. Okay, so these are the pieces I'm going to be sewing together first. This is the back, these are the side backs, and this is the side front. And after that, I'll be attaching the front pieces on both sides. I'm just a little bit nervous right now, so yeah, we're just gonna do this. And so the red notches are important here when pinning the fabric together to make sure that the pattern is lined up properly. I'm just grabbing the pieces and pinning them all together. Some of the pieces are more flat and are being connected to a curved piece. To help it curve better, you can add more tiny notches along the straight piece, and this will help it bend before you pin it. And then once all the pieces are pinned, it's time to sew. The seam allowance it came with is 1/2 inch, which is a bit wider than I'm used to, but this actually saved me because my piece was a little too small on me when I was done sewing it, but I was able to adjust it later to about 1/4 inch. And so I guess that's why it's good to practice on cheaper materials or to make a muslin first. And here's what it looks like all sewn together. Next, I had to repeat the process for the lining, but I didn't want to mess it up, so I was careful to place the right sides facing on top of the outer fabric before pinning, because that's how it's going to be sewn. And also make sure to leave a small opening along the side, that way you can turn it inside out later. Then I made a collar according to the instructions, and before turning it inside out, I cut the excess fabric, and then I ironed the seams and the collar and just getting everything ready to begin sewing. And then I sewed the ties and the loops, and I cut the excess fabric again. These are like spaghetti strap width, so it's important to cut the excess fabric or else it's a little difficult to turn inside out. And I used a tube turner to flip them inside out. And for the buttons, I wanted to make sure that they were the right size because I'm using a bit of a larger button, so I just kind of made sure that it would go through, and I also used my thumb to act as the seam allowance. And then I just cut as many pieces of the buttons I was using. And then I attached the button loops to the right side of the outer lining, so the main fabric. And I tried to just make sure that they were an equal distance apart. I also pinned the necktie and sewed it to the outer lining as well. And then you have to attach the collar, and I don't have a good video of this because I struggled and I actually had to make my collar less long, but it turned out okay. And then it was time to attach the lining to the main fabric, right sides facing together. I pinned along all of the edges except the armholes because that's done in the next step, but yeah, brace yourself because doing this pinning, it took me 8 minutes total. And here's what it looks like before adding the buttons and closing the armholes. I decided to take this project on the road, so I actually finished the buttons in my car and I sewed the armholes by hand using a ladder stitch. Hope this was helpful, and thank you for watching.